Have you ever felt as if life has placed you on pause? As if everyone else is racing ahead while you're still standing in the same place waiting for something, anything, to finally happen? You tell yourself to stay hopeful, but the silence stretches so long it begins to echo. It feels like you've been overlooked, as if the world has forgotten you. Yet what if that stillness isn't punishment at all? What if it's preparation? What if the reason nothing seems to be moving is because you're not just waiting for your moment is waiting for you? There are moments in life when the silence feels deafening, when it seems as though the world has turned its face away from you, when the doors you've been knocking on refuse to open, and the dreams you've nursed with such tenderness begin to feel like ghosts, distant, fading, almost foolish. You scroll through the highlights of other people's lives and wonder, what about me? Why not yet? But here's the quiet truth. Being hidden does not mean you've been forgotten. It might just mean that something sacred is happening, something too delicate to be disturbed. The seed, after all, spends most of its life buried beneath the soil. From the surface, it looks lifeless, forgotten, covered in dirt. But underneath, it's splitting open, pushing roots down before it ever dares to reach upward. Its hiddenness is not a sign of death. It's the birthplace of life. In our world of constant visibility, we're taught to measure worth by attention, by who sees us, applauds us, or recognizes what we do. But there is an extraordinary kind of strength born in the shadows, in those seasons when no one claps for you, when no one notices your quiet persistence. That's when character is formed. That's when your foundation is laid. Think of the artist who paints in solitude for years before her work ever hangs on a gallery wall, or the scientist who spends long nights in a lab chasing an idea no one else believes in, or the mother who quietly holds her family together while the world forgets her name. Hidden work is holy work. The world may not see it now, but heaven always does. There was once a young woman who dreamed of writing stories that would make people feel less alone. But her life was messy, uncertain. She faced rejection after rejection, loss after loss. To most, she looked like a failure. Yet, in that hidden place, she kept writing, kept refining her words, her heart, her hope. When her moment finally came, the story she wrote carried the depth of someone who had lived through the dark and learned how to find the light. Her years of obscurity weren't wasted. They were the reason her words had power. When you are hidden, it's not because you are unworthy. It's because you are being made ready. God hides you not to diminish you, but to develop you. There are lessons you can only learn in stillness. There is wisdom that only comes from waiting. There are callings too heavy for the untested heart. Sometimes protection feels like isolation. Sometimes preparation feels like punishment. But it isn't. It's grace, disguised as delay. We often imagine success as sudden, but nothing real ever happens overnight. The oak tree doesn't sprout fully grown. The diamond doesn't shimmer without pressure. Even the stars, as ancient as they are born in the dark. So why should we expect our growth to be any different? The things that truly matter, strength, wisdom, empathy, endurance, they take time. They take seasons of hiding. There is a story about David, the shepherd boy who would one day become king. Long before the crown ever touched his head, he spent years tending sheep in the fields, unseen and uncelebrated, but it was there in the quiet pastures, under open skies, that he learned courage, faith, and humility. The solitude was his schooling. The hidden years were his preparation. When the time came for him to lead, he wasn't proud or untested. He was ready. Perhaps that's what's happening to you. Perhaps the closed doors aren't rejection, they're redirection. Perhaps the silence isn't absence, it's instruction. What you call delay, heaven might be calling design. There will come a day when you'll understand why it had to be this way. When the things that once hurt will start to make sense, you'll look back and realize that what felt like a pause was really protection, and what felt like being buried was actually being planted. So don't despise your hidden season. Tend it, cherish it. Let it teach you patience, discipline, faith, because one day, when the light finds you, you'll stand steady. You won't crumble under the weight of what you prayed for. You'll recognize that the silence wasn't empty, it was sacred. It was the sound of your becoming. You are not invisible, you are incubating. You are not forgotten, you are being formed. And when your time comes, when the soil parts and you rise into the light, the world will not just see what you've become, it will feel everything it took for you to get there. Because hidden does not mean forgotten. It never did. There are times when life closes in, when every door you reach for is suddenly locked and every plan you carefully crafted collapses in your hands. It can feel cruel, like you've been pushed aside or kept out of a world that doesn't want you. You pray, you plan, you persist, yet nothing seems to unfold the way you hoped. In those moments, it's tempting to believe you're being punished or forgotten. But what if the stillness is not rejection? What if the waiting is protection? There is a sacred mystery in the way life shelters what is not yet ready to face the world. A jeweler doesn't leave a raw diamond on a street corner. It would be too easily stolen or destroyed. The stone is hidden away, locked carefully inside velvet and glass until the time comes for it to be cut, polished, and placed in its rightful setting. That's what divine protection looks like. Not the absence of struggle, but the assurance that what is precious will not be wasted. Sometimes the reason things don't happen when or how we want them to is because they're too small for the scale of what we've been created to carry. We ask for a platform, but God is still building our character. We beg for love, but our hearts still need mending. We long for recognition, but our motives aren't yet pure enough to bear it. So instead, life wraps us in silence, not to punish, but to prepare. Think of the shepherd boy who would one day be king. He wasn't born in a palace, but in a pasture. He spent his youth among sheep, forgotten by his own family when greatness came knocking. Yet that pasture, that hidden place, was where he learned courage, compassion, and trust. The crown came later, but only because he had been protected from it too soon. What would have destroyed him in arrogance, he could finally carry in wisdom. And we don't always see protection for what it is because it rarely feels gentle. It often looks like delay, disappointment, or heartbreak. A relationship ends just as it began to feel safe. A door closes after you've invested everything in it. A dream slips through your fingers, and you can't understand why. But unseen hands are often guiding us away from what would break us. The same force that hides the seed underground also keeps the storm from tearing it apart before it can take root. There's a story about a woman who prayed for years to be promoted in her job. She was competent, loyal, overqualified even, but every time a position opened, someone else was chosen. She felt humiliated, invisible. Then, one year, the company underwent a major collapse. Departments were cut. Executives were dismissed. The entire structure reshaped. The position she had once coveted disappeared, but she, safely tucked away in her smaller role, remained employed. Within months, she was asked to help rebuild the new company from the ground up, this time on her own terms. The very delay she resented had shielded her from disaster. And that's how divine timing works. What looks like abandonment can be the gentlest form of protection. Life guards what's not ready to survive the weight of exposure. It keeps us hidden until we've developed the resilience to withstand both praise and pressure. Even in nature, protection comes before revelation. The pearl begins as irritation inside an oyster, a wound covered layer by layer until it becomes something luminous. The butterfly forms inside the cocoon unseen because its wings are too fragile to meet the world too soon. The womb guards the child until the heartbeat grows strong enough to meet air. Every sacred thing begins in secrecy. Perhaps that's where you are now, in your own cocoon of divine protection. It can feel lonely, yes, even cruel at times. But one day you will look back and realize that what you thought was isolation was actually insulation. That the closed doors, the unanswered calls, the quiet seasons, they weren't the world ignoring you. They were grace, keeping you intact until the right moment came. So when life slows you down, when it hides you, when it asks you to wait, don't mistake that for neglect. The pause is proof that you are valuable. The delay is evidence that you are being shaped. The silence is not empty, it's full of intention. You are not being punished, you are being preserved. For the same reason a jeweler protects a diamond, a gardener guards a seed, a mother shields her child, because what is precious is always worth protecting. And you are precious. You always were. We live in a world obsessed with immediacy, instant messages, overnight deliveries, quick fixes, and fast fame. Everything around us whispers that if it doesn't happen quickly, it isn't worth waiting for. But the truth is, the things that matter most, the things that last, take time. The finest wines are aged. The tallest trees grow slowly. Even the stars, those ancient fires of the heavens, take thousands of years to send their light across the universe before we ever see them. Preparation, the quiet work before the unveiling, is not wasted time, it is sacred time. There's a story about a young potter who spent years trying to perfect her craft. Every day she would sit at her wheel, shaping and reshaping the clay, only to have it collapse in her hands. Her teacher once told her, "The clay isn't wrong, it's just not ready." Frustrated, she didn't understand what that meant until one day, as she watched the kiln, she realized the heat wasn't there to destroy her creation. It was there to strengthen it. The fire was part of the process. Without it, the vessel would never endure. That is what preparation is, the fire that fortifies you for what's coming next. We often want the reward without the refining. We dream of the destination, but forget the discipline that must carry us there. Yet every great life is built in obscurity long before it's ever celebrated in public. The musician who captivates a stadium spent years playing to empty rooms. The athlete who lifts a trophy once trained in silence before dawn. The teacher who transforms lives first sat at the feet of others, absorbing, learning, failing, and trying again. The visible moment, the glory, is only the tip of an iceberg that's been growing unseen beneath the surface. There's a peculiar kind of grace in waiting. It's uncomfortable, even maddening at times, but it's also where transformation happens, in those quiet, uneventful stretches where nothing seems to be moving. Everything inside you is being rearranged. Strength is being built where there was once impatience. Wisdom is taking root where there was once pride. Courage is forming where there was once fear. You can't rush that kind of growth. It demands time, it demands trust. Even nature understands this truth. The seasons themselves are teachers. You don't see the seed complain that it hasn't bloomed in winter. It rests, it allows the soil and the frost and the darkness to do their work. And when spring arrives, it emerges, not because it forced itself into being, but because it waited for the right moment. We too have seasons. Some are full of harvest and celebration, and others are meant for planting and patience. One is not better than the other. Each is necessary. There's a story of a man who dreamed of leading others, of doing something that mattered. But for years, nothing seemed to open. He worked small jobs, unseen and undervalued, wondering if he'd misunderstood his calling. What he didn't realize was that every task, every unseen effort was teaching him something essential. The patience he learned sweeping floors would one day become the steadiness people depended on in him as a leader. The humility he developed when no one was watching became the very thing that drew others to trust him when they finally were. His waiting wasn't wasted. It was weaving him into who he was meant to be. We are so quick to assume delay means denial, but sometimes delay is direction. Sometimes it's the universe saying, not yet. You're still growing. You cannot be trusted with something great if you haven't been strengthened enough to carry it. The dream itself may be ready, but are you? The stage may be set, but is your heart? Preparation is not glamorous. It is filled with repetition, with failures that no one sees, with long nights and longer doubts. But when the moment finally comes, when the light breaks through, it's that hidden labor that gives your success its weight, its integrity, its grace. Without the preparation, even the best opportunities can crush you. With it, you'll not only rise to meet them, you'll sustain them. So if you find yourself in a season where nothing seems to be happening, don't despair. You are not behind, you are being built. The slow work is the sure work. Every unseen moment, every quiet effort, every disappointment is shaping you for something that can't yet be revealed. The world may not see your progress, but the preparation is real. And when the time comes, when everything aligns, you will discover that the waiting was never empty. It's the making of you. There comes a time in everyone's life when waiting becomes almost unbearable. You've done everything right, followed every rule, said every prayer, and still nothing moves. The phone doesn't ring, the door doesn't open, the answer doesn't come. You tell yourself to stay patient, but patience starts to taste bitter when it stretches into years. You look around and wonder why others seem to be leaping forward while you're still standing still. It's in those hollow spaces of delay that doubt begins to whisper, maybe I'm not meant for it. Maybe it's never going to happen for me. But what if the delay isn't a detour at all? What if the pause, the long, aching stretch of silence, is part of a greater design? We often think of waiting as wasted time, but in truth, delay is one of the most deliberate tools of destiny. It's the quiet interval in which your future is being stitched together, a thread at a time, in ways you can't yet see. Think of a tapestry from its underside. All you see are tangled knots, mismatched colors, frayed ends that make no sense. But when you turn it over, a pattern emerges, intricate, beautiful, perfectly balanced. That's what life looks like when we're in the middle of the delay. From where we stand, it feels messy and meaningless. But from above, there's order, there's purpose, there's art. The delay is where strength is forged, perspective is deepened, and character is refined. The world teaches us to chase immediacy, but wisdom is always slow. The best stories, the ones that touch hearts and outlast generations, aren't written in haste. They take years of rewrites, revisions, and painful edits before they are ready to be told. So it is with our lives. The author of your story is not late, he's thorough. There's an old saying that the bow must be pulled back before the arrow can fly forward. That's what the delay often feels like. Tension, resistance, pressure. But without that pull, there's no force to propel you when it's finally time. Sometimes you're not being held back. You're being aimed. There's a story of a man who wanted nothing more than to start his own company. He had the ideas, the passion, even a small following. But every time he tried to move forward, something fell apart. Investors backed out. Partners betrayed him. At one point, he lost everything and had to start over. For years, he thought the delay was proof he wasn't meant to succeed. Yet when he finally launched, he realized that all those years of waiting had taught him exactly what he needed to build something that could last. The patience he learned became his power. Had success come earlier, it would have collapsed under the weight of his inexperience. The delay wasn't a curse, it was construction. We often ask for answers, but what we truly need is alignment. There's no point in stepping through a door if the path on the other side isn't ready. The delay ensures that what awaits you can sustain you. It's preparing the circumstances, the people, even the world around you for your arrival. You might be ready in your heart, but what about the stage that's being built for you? Even nature honors delay. The river doesn't rush to the ocean, it carves its path patiently, stone by stone, until it becomes strong enough to meet the tide. The sunrise doesn't happen in an instant. It climbs the horizon slowly, painting the sky as it goes. Every masterpiece unfolds in its own time. And yet, when it happens, it feels effortless, inevitable, as though it could never have happened any other way. Maybe that's what the delay is doing in your life, aligning every unseen detail, so that when your moment comes, it comes without struggle. When you finally meet the person you were meant to meet, you'll realize that if it had happened any earlier, it wouldn't have worked. When the opportunity arrives, you'll understand that if it had come before, you wouldn't have been ready. It's easy to curse the waiting season, but one day you'll bless it, because the delay doesn't mean denial, it means design. It means there's something being built that's far too important to be rushed. You can't microwave destiny, you can't hurry maturity. Some blessings are too weighty to be delivered before their appointed time. So when you find yourself in the in-between, suspended between what was and what will be, don't lose heart. Every unanswered prayer, every closed door, every detour is part of the architecture of your becoming. The delay isn't working against you, it's working for you. The hands that hold your future aren't idle. They're crafting, refining, aligning until everything fits. And when the time finally comes, it won't feel delayed at all. It will feel right. It will feel destined. It will feel like it was always meant to be this way, because it was. And there comes a moment in every story when the curtain finally lifts. The quiet chapters, the unseen struggle, the long nights of doubt, all of it suddenly makes sense. But when you are in the middle of that waiting, it's almost impossible to imagine that one day the silence will end. You've spent so long in the shadows, you start to wonder if you've been forgotten there. You've worked, prayed, prepared, and hoped, yet the recognition never seems to come. But the truth is, you are not waiting for the world to notice you. The world is waiting for you to be ready. There's something sacred about the hidden years, the time when you're working quietly, unnoticed, while others seem to be racing ahead. It's there that you learn the lessons that glory can't teach. You learn to be faithful when no one claps. You learn to keep showing up when the results are invisible. You learn to create not for applause, but for purpose. Those who skip that season might rise quickly, but they fall just as fast. You, however, will endure, because you'll have roots that run deep. There's a story about a musician who spent over a decade playing in tiny bars and underground clubs. Most nights, only a handful of people showed up, sometimes none at all. He carried his guitar through snow and rain, wondering if it was all in vain. But he kept playing, refining, learning how to hold a crowd, how to tell a story through a song. When his music finally reached the right ears, he wasn't just talented, he was seasoned. He was ready to stand before thousands because he had already learned to play for one. The hidden years had not hindered him, they had honed him. When your moment of revelation comes, when the door finally opens and the light finds you, you will realize that every unseen day was essential. The waiting didn't delay your destiny, it prepared you for it. The pain taught you empathy. The failures taught you humility. The loneliness taught you strength. And the silence taught you to hear your own voice clearly. You won't crumble under the weight of what you once prayed for, because the strength you built in obscurity will hold you steady when the spotlight shines. So many people think success is about being discovered, but discovery means nothing without preparation. Imagine finding gold buried deep in a mountain. It isn't beautiful when it's found. It's covered in dirt and rock, raw and unshaped. Only through time, through pressure and refinement does it become something of worth. The same is true of you. When you are finally revealed, the world won't see the rough edges you endured. They'll see the brilliance forged by every hardship you overcame. There's a kind of quiet magic in the way life unfolds. Nothing truly happens before its time. You might think you're behind, but you're right on schedule. You might think others have surpassed you, but your path isn't theirs. Every person's unveiling comes at a different moment. And comparison will only make you miss your own. When the light finds you, it won't be too early or too late. It will be precisely when you can handle it, when you can carry it without losing yourself to it. The world often mistakes visibility for value, but the truth is the opposite. The most valuable things in life, trust, character, courage, are formed where no one can see them. Your hidden years are not wasted. They are where the foundation is laid. They are the reason that when your season of revelation comes, you will stand firm instead of faltering. And when that moment arrives, when the opportunity aligns, when the world finally recognizes what you've been building all this time, you will walk into it with quiet confidence, not desperation. You won't need to prove anything because the preparation will speak for you. Every failure, every tear, every lonely night will have been part of the making. The years that felt invisible will suddenly become invaluable. You'll understand then that the waiting was never punishment, it was mercy. You weren't being overlooked, you were being preserved. Because the truth is, a blessing that comes too soon can destroy you, but one that comes in its right time will elevate you without breaking you. You were hidden not because you were unworthy, but because what you carry is too precious to be rushed. And when you finally step into your moment, when the light hits you, and you can feel the weight of destiny resting gently on your shoulders, you'll know that you are ready. Ready not because you've reached perfection, but because you've grown into the person who can hold what once felt impossible. You'll realize that every delay was divine, every disappointment was direction, and every hidden year was a quiet rehearsal for this very stage. Because when you are finally revealed, it won't just be about being seen, it will be about being prepared. You'll be ready to rise, not just for yourself, but for everyone who's still waiting in the dark, wondering if their time will ever come. And you'll be living proof that it will, and that when it does, it will be worth every moment it took to get there. One day you will look back on this chapter, the waiting, the wondering, the long and lonely nights, and realize it was never wasted. Every silence was teaching you how to listen. Every delay was shaping your strength. Every hidden season was proof that something extraordinary was being prepared within you. You'll see that being hidden was never about being forgotten, it was about being formed. You'll understand that protection was not rejection, it was grace guarding what was still growing. You'll remember that preparation was never punishment, it was the sacred work of becoming. You'll know that every delay was deliberate, every detour intentional, and every heartbreak part of a larger design that only makes sense in hindsight. Because when the time finally came, when you were revealed, you weren't just ready to shine, you were ready to stand. You were ready to handle the weight of what you once prayed for with wisdom, humility, and gratitude. And that's the beauty of divine timing. It never gives you what you ask for when you want it. It gives it when you can carry it. So if you find yourself in the quiet places of life right now, unsure if anyone sees you, unsure if anything is moving, take heart. You are not behind, you are becoming. You are not being delayed, you are being designed. And the same God who hids you will reveal you when the world and your heart are both ready. And when that moment comes, you won't just step into your destiny, you'll recognize that it had been unfolding all along. Because you were never forgotten, you were never denied. You were only hidden until you were ready.